The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back, dear friends, to the Science of Magic, a program combining the science and magic of today's leading topics to co-create new solutions and promote evolutionary thinking. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring shamanic awakening in a world of darkness. There will come a time of darkness. Old pathways will be closed, and the people will be unable to see the new. It's during these times that what I've taught you will be needed most. Until then, Wiyaka, trust what you know, not what you think you see. It was 1976, just 1 year before my old teacher crossed over. This was a major dissertation for the usually stoic, silent elder. As usual, it was as clear as mud to me, but no matter how much I nagged, he would say no more. Now here we are, 42 years later, and I'm just starting to understand. Things are changing very quickly. Old concepts are dying, leaving us confused and disoriented. It's a time wrought with great turmoil. Economies are crashing, homelessness is on the rise, refugees of war are overburdening sheltering countries, children are killing children, and no one can seem to agree on solutions. How do we find our way in a world gone mad? Can the answer be found in history? Are there ancient, seemingly magical forms that can help us now? Is what my old teacher suggested true? Can shamanic divination and healing support our path through the darkness? If so, how? Our guest this hour is well equipped to help us explore shamanism and its modern-day application. With us is Itzhak Beery, a leading shamanic teacher, healer, speaker, community activist, and author of numerous books on shamanism. For over 21 years, Itzhak has bridged the spiritual and practical wisdom of his indigenous teachers with a powerful contemporary approach relevant to our stressful and unbalanced modern times. Itzhak teaches internationally and leads groups on healing expeditions to the Andes and the Amazon of Ecuador. He received the Ambassador of Peace Award from the Universal Peace Federation and the UN. His website, itzhakbeery.com. Itzhak, thanks so much for being on the Science of Magic with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, I think we might have a little bit in common.
I'm sure.
So we all start out on the same page, Itzhak. But would you please define shamanism for us?
Well, it's probably the hardest thing to define because because every tradition, every indigenous tradition in the world, wherever you are, practice some kind of earth-based shamanism or healing methods or communications with spirit, using the elements, the natural world all around us, and the world that we see and the world we don't see. It's called in different names in different cultures. So today we are, lopping it all up in one word. It's called shamanism, but it has many different meanings. But the one thing that I really do like, it comes from the word shaman come from the Tungus tribe, and one of the shamans from the Tungus who came to New York, and I asked him what it means. If you have somebody from Tungus who speaks the language, you might want to ask him. And he said it's the keeper of the fire. And keeper of the fire, it gives a bigger meaning to the word shaman, which means it's the person who is in the center, or the fire that keeps the community going, the spiritual, emotional, the physical well-being of the community. So it's a role or responsibility of a person to assume being the keeper of the society, and I think that's so important.
So how old is it really?
Oh, from the time people walk on this earth, from the time they start to observe nature, to the time they start to look up into the sky and see the birds and understand that there is a correlation between the wind and the snow and the summer, and that the stars and the moon are influencing nature, and that everything that we are provided by Pachamama, or Mother Earth, is here for us for healing. So it's really from the beginning of time.
And so when I hear you talk about the Earth and the stars, so it's not just Earth-based, it's star-based as well?
Oh, of course. I mean, if today we have this tendency to separate between astrology and acupuncture and card reading and diagnostic and medicine and psychotherapy and all of that. But in the indigenous world, there is none of that. There is no labels like that. It's all part of medicine. And so the way the moon is circling around us and we are circling around the sun, it has all to do with our own physical, emotional, and spiritual development. And so there is no really label. We are all part of and connected to all of it.
There's an interesting word that you just used that I hear a lot in shamanic circles, medicine. Would you mind telling me what you mean by medicine when you use it shamanically?
Yeah, I think that we got confused. Medicine in the Western world means differently. Medicine in the medicine world means that you take a pill and that you create a cure for your disease or illness, or for the symptoms of it. In the shamanic tradition, or in what we call alternative medicine, which I don't think that is alternative, it's the medicine is the qualities of healing that each of the element possess, that brings balance or knowledge or wisdom to the person who is experiencing sickness. And we understand that sometimes we work with different spirit, and each spirit have its own medicine, which means its own qualities embedded in them that we can identify with, and we can use in our life in order for us to be more conscious.
So it sounds like a form of power, a divination of power.
It is a power, but sometimes when we are talking about power, some people think about the size of their muscles. But that's not really what in the shamanic tradition we talk about power. Power is the ability to be conscious to everything that around us and not take it personally. Power is the ability to look at the darkness and to stand in front of that fear and face it and learn to own your shadows and not throw it on other people. So that's power. It's the power of the warrior, of a shamanic warrior.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your training. What forms have you studied?
My first foray into all of this was actually I was quite older or elder. It happened to me in my midlife crisis. In my beginning of my 40s, I felt like that everything that I did so far, I was an artist. I was a fine artist. I had exhibitions in art, and I had an advertising agency that won awards, and we did quite well in the creative part. And but then something was just not right. I didn't understand if this is everything that I came here to do. And so I read a book, and I read a book by another shaman, but his name is Hank Wasselman, Spirit Walker, which I recommend to read. And that all of a sudden gave me some really an insight to all those thoughts and feeling I was going through. And then at that end of the book, he was describing a workshop with another shaman. His name is Michael Harner. And
yes, did you know that Michael passed recently, I believe?
Yes,
Yeah.
he passed on, and he left a great legacy over here.
Beautiful legacy,
wonderful. Yeah. And so I took this class, and that was 1995, and with Michael Arner, and then all of a sudden I discovered that I have power or the ability to use the gift that was embedded in me, which I didn't know that existed, which is, I think, that every person that listened to this broadcast probably have the same gifts.
Well, we're going to have to pick up on the other side of a commercial break about these gifts and how we might all have them, which is intriguing. But it is time for a commercial break. Itzhak and I will return shortly, so don't you go away. Remember, our current episodes are internationally broadcast and aired daily through the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Past thought-provoking episodes are always available free of charge on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. This is The Science of Magic with yours truly, Gwilda Wiyaka, on the wonderful X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic. We're dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka, and our guest this hour is Itzhak Beery. He's a leading shamanic teacher, healer, speaker, community activist, and author of numerous books on shamanism. His website, itzhakbeery.com. Itzhak, we were just getting into your training, and we'd gotten to the point where you'd done some studying core shamanism with Michael Harner and read a book. Do tell us the rest.
Well, it was so new to me. I did not know that I have all these gifts, and I later on I was, I worked with John Perkins, and I went with him to Ecuador, and I met a wonderful, powerful shaman that this year I'm going to create a whole Andes Summit to bring all of those shamans together and invite people to come and meet them. And so I met Jose Joaquin Pineda, who is one of them, and I worked with him. I had quite a series of incredible visions, which I wrote in my books. And he asked me to become his apprentice, and which I did for 3 years, mostly here in New York, where he came here for 6 months a year, and we did hundreds of healing work with him. And then I worked with Ipupiara, which is a shaman from the Uruuwawu from Brazil, who for 12 years until his passing. Because I created a group here, the New York Shamanic Circle, I invited a lot of different shamans from all over the world to work with us. Some of them are the Inuit, Anangak, and people from Mongolia, from South America, Native American. So we have a lot of different teachers who comes, and we still do for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of education in the indigenous world, and I really see myself as a more of a bridge between those indigenous elders who really can't get into the Western mind. But I can translate what they mean and what they feel into a language we can understand. So I think that a lot of us who worked with indigenous people becoming translators of ideas, and they bring those indigenous wisdom back to people who already lost the ability to read symbols and the poetry of shamanism.
Yeah, there's much talk today about appropriation of ceremony. Could you speak to this?
Well, ceremony is everything in life is a ceremony. We are really now sitting and talking in a ceremonial way, even if we don't pay attention to it. A ceremony allows us to disregard our gatekeeper, the mind, the logic, what we call ego, or the fear of not knowing and feeling. So in many ways, a ceremony allows us to be together as a community, or you can do a ceremony by yourself and with another person too, and then speak in a language that is not verbal, that has more of a human and more animalistic way to penetrate deeper into our soul without the gatekeeper telling us that we may be feeling stupid, or this is not right, show me the proof and all that. And so a ceremony is very, very important. And of course there is we are creatures of ceremonies, and when we go to every night before we go to sleep and brush our teeth, this is a ceremony. Every morning that we have breakfast, this is a ceremony. Every time that we come to the office and we set up the table and move this chair over here and put a flower over here, that's a ceremony. And our life is full of those ceremonies. And
so given that, is there a problem when we take on the ceremonies of indigenous peoples?
No, because we Ipupiara used to say to me that don't think that because I have a feather on my head and I'm wearing a poncho, I'm different than you. We are all indigenous on this earth. So we all down deep inside ourselves we are, and that's why there is such a big attraction in the Western world now to shamanism, is because we all feel the need to be connected to what we call indigenous world, to community, to the elements, to the weather, to the forest, to the trees, to all of those things that makes us humans.
So what relevance does shamanism have for people of today? How can it help us out?
Well, in the shamanic way of thinking, they look at us, or the people from the Amazon or from the Andes, which is mostly what I know. They look at us and they say, "My God, these people are so sad. Mm-hmm. The eyes are not shining. There is no happiness in the Western world." And you know what? They are absolutely right. We lost the ability to have a bright eyes and bright outlook of life, because many of the ways that we live our life, which is mostly run after money, the destruction of communities, the destruction of families, the separation, or that myth that you can do it all by yourself, that you are separate, that you don't need anybody else, the feeling that we are not interconnected with each other. When people feel lonely, and if you're talking about the what's going on now with addictions all around our country, it's only a symptom of loneliness and separation.
So how can shamanism help this loneliness and segregation? How does it help?
Well, first is being in a community, or I think that most importantly, that all of us, each person that listens to this broadcast, what do you do today to be in a community with another person? Open your heart, share your heart, create communities if you don't have one. I mean, many people are now watching the screens, or they live a virtual life. They don't live really life. We are so protected by the environment that we create all around us that we don't even understand that we are destroying the rivers and the forests and the mountains.
So how can the practice of shamanism help us get back into community? How can it help us become more aware?
Well, the shamanic teaching is to observe and identify or embody the elements within ourselves and within our soul and spirit. So in other words, if you come out of your house and you go hug a tree, drink the water, swim in the river in the spring, pray for the rain, pray for the wind, and be connected to that, you become part of the environment. And then when that happens, when you feel whole and complete, you are not going to vote for people who are calling for the destructions of nature, calling for the destructions of human rights, because you have a connection. They can only influence people when people don't have connection to the whole, for the whole universe, nature, and for the whole being. You have to remember that we are ourselves are built from all of those elements, mostly water and calcium, magnesium, and other things like that. We are nature, and many people disregard that. And shamanism allowed this connection for people to remember that.
So are there ceremonies and rituals and practices within shamanism that help us reconnect with the elements?
Well, every ceremony and every ritual in shamanism is about that, is about reconnecting to nature, reconnecting yourself, your spirit, your soul, your heart, with the trees, the forest, the stones, the fire, the eggs, the alcohol, the all of those elements that makes you connect or become part of the big picture, become part of the universe, not separate from the universe.
It sounds like we're just about to need to take a break here, but it sounds to me like the main thrust of shamanism then is reconnecting and rebalancing.
Absolutely. So it's about it's not like people are not connected. They are connected, but they forgetting that. I mean, when people go into the rain, something happened. Well, the rain also brings you negative ions, which change the electromagnetic field around each person. But which is, all of those ceremonies that we do have a scientific explanation to them. Smoke, for instance, purify the air and bring the messages that you have to God or to the Creator. But also, smoke is clearing the bacteria from or purifying the air around you. So each of those elements are not done just because people like them.
Well, it's time for another short pause here. Itzhak and I will return to our discussion on the other side of this break. So you stay right there. Don't miss all the wonderful things we have to offer on our website, your resource for creative solutions in a changing world, thescienceofmagic.net. This is The Science of Magic with yours truly, Gwilda Wiyaka, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
From our broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond, you're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Demo.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. futureofgodamen.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. If you enjoy all the wonderful topics on our program, visit my blog, where the adventure continues, at our website, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka, and we're speaking with Itzhak Beery, a leading shamanic teacher, healer, speaker, community activist, and author of numerous books on shamanism. His website, itzhakbeery.com. Itzhak, I understand that shamanism can be used as a divinational tool. How does that work?
It works very well. Well, there are many tools that shamans use in many different traditions to foretell the future, to look into the past, understand what's going on in person's body, soul, and spirit, and to find out the roots of causes of person's emotional and physical problems. There are so many in every culture, but I personally, I'm using a few of those. One of them is the candle reading, or the candle flame reading, that is being used in South America, in the Andes, where a person takes a candle and rubs the candle over the person's body, and this way it soaks the energy, the negative energy in the candle, and when you light the flame, you see in shapes, you see it through the colors, the form of the flame and the wax about a person, and it's incredibly accurate. You can detect different problems in the skeleton, in the inner organs, and you can tell about different issues that a person's having in his life.
So are you using this candle like a surrogate? And then if so, how are you able to read what's going on there? What's the science behind it?
Oh, believe me. Well, it's all in my book. We don't have enough time to explain exactly how it happened. But you have to understand the different colors, the different forms, and then you develop your own ability to see. I'm teaching this all over the world, and many people are already using it in other countries, which is a beautiful thing.
So are the colors in this and that within the candle, are they creating metaphors that then you have to interpret? Is that part of the training?
Yes. So each color has a different vibrations, and each vibration correlates to a different emotional state or physical state. You're learning how to read that, and there is no one candle that no two candles that they look alike. They're all really influenced by the energy of that person, and it's in many cases people who use that get incredible accurate results. So I'm combining that system with another system that the shamans of the Andes are using, which is a palm reading, looking at the lines and the shapes of the hands to tell the person's quality of medicine or what this person's life purpose needs to be.
So this is like palmistry, right?
Yes, it's like palmistry.
So how does that work?
Well, each hand has a different quality. Some hands are fire hands, some of them are earthy hands, some air, some water, and each of the line represent different aspects of the person.
So where did palmistry originate?
Well, it's definitely, I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely was developed in the Andes because they didn't have any books from India or from other places to come from.
Isn't it amazing? I've noticed there's shamanic societies can be isolated for eons, like the Aboriginals, and yet the practices have so much in common. Have you noticed that, and what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, sometimes, for instance, I'm using a lot of work with eggs, to remove negative energy, to remove pain, but that technique is used also throughout South America, but it's also used in Poland and Russia, and in Mongolia, in Siberia, and in China. So people recognize that eggs has a healing capacity by absorbing the negative energy or warmth or energy of the body, and they use it. And so people use fire to heal, smoke to heal in all traditions. And I think that it's come from the nature of the nature of who we are. We are seeing that water has a healing, cleansing capability. So we are associating that with cleansing, with removing negative energy, or with the flow of life. So there are a lot of the shamanic all over the world has or carry the same symbolism or the same medicine, what we call, and it's quite remarkable that we are communicating this way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. So you've used this term several times. Would you mind defining what you mean by negative energy?
Negative energy is, I'll tell you the description of my teacher, Ipupiara, what he used to say about that, because some people don't believe in negative energy. Some people believe that there are energy, and then the good and bad energies are just the same. In the Brazilian tradition, or in South American tradition, they believe that good energy is energy that promotes the flow of life, which is promote the growth of each person or each plant on this earth. Negative energy, however, is energy that is a heavy energy, that it doesn't want to flow. It wants to sink down on your body or in your organs, and it promotes death or the lack of life. In other words, to depression, anger, all of those emotions are connected to negative energy. So the role of the shaman is to change that energy and to bring a person into the flow of life. And that brings us to an issue of evil spirit, negative energies. Where do you have that? How do you get that? But, I think a lot of people, they know what it is, because when they sit next to someone in a bus or in a car and they feel the anger, they feel the sadness, they feel what negative energy is.
So is there any studies done on this? I mean, can we measure negative energy?
You know what? I never looked at that in this way.
But if we're going to bridge science, the Western mind with these traditions, I would think we'd need to, wouldn't we?
Yes, why not? I welcome anyone who's listening to do that. I'm not personally very keen on trying to understand the science behind it, but you have to understand that the shamanic traditions are from the beginning of time. And from beginning of time, people use only what works. They don't do anything that does not work and heal other people, because the reputation of a shaman depends on the results that he produces. So anything that doesn't work is out. Everything that works is used.
If it's so effective, though, why'd we get away from it?
Well, first of all, I think that we are not. I think there is we are looking at the Western world and we think that this is the whole world. But out of the whole world, we are only 1 billion, so 7 million or 6 billion people are still using homemade, nature-based medicine. They don't go to hospitals for everything. They use their local healers and their mothers and their grandmothers to heal them, which is a beautiful thing to do. So I think that part of the reason why we in the West is being so neglected, or because it had a bad reputation created by the establishment, the medical establishment, and there are
Wait. The medical establishment shamanism started fading in this country long before the medical establishment was as powerful and as overlording as it is now.
Well, if you remember, there was in the Middle Ages there was a big campaign of putting all the women who practice this on fire, and then it became they called them witches, but these were the shamans, these were the healers of Europe.
But I thought that was more of a religious thing than a medical thing.
No,
burning of the witches.
Well, yes, but those women, what they practice medicine. They practice healing for other people. The church didn't want people to associate with them because they wanted to have the only say about connection to spirit, the connection to God. But that started to change around that time, and there is a big to do with this campaign of changing the from heart-based society, of the feminine and based society to masculine.
Looks like it's time for another quick break, but Itzhak and I will be back shortly, so don't leave us now. This is The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka. Our executive producer is Rob McConnell, and we're on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. There's more fun to come, so you stay right there.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. What perks your interest? I always love to hear from my listeners. Email me at info@thescienceofmagic.net and suggest a topic or a guest that's on your mind. I'm sure we'll all enjoy them. Our guest this hour is Itzhak Beery, a leading shamanic teacher, healer, speaker, community activist, and author of numerous books on shamanism. His website, itzhakbeery.com. Itzhak, shamanism, as I understand it, works on the spiritual level, if you will. How do you discern shamanism from sorcery?
Well, many people are connected, both of them, and it's really a personal choice of each of the shamans, if he wants to be a white shaman or good shaman or bad shaman. And that is not very different than any other profession. You could be a good politician and a bad politician. You could be a good doctor and a bad doctor.
Yes, but I understand when you're working shamanically, you're moving a lot of power. You're working with nature. You're moving a lot of power. So I think I would much rather run into a bad politician than a bad shaman. How do we stay clean in this?
Well, you may want to find out what the intention of the shamans are. You want to understand your energy and how your energy works with that. And it's true, shamans have a great power, and their power comes from their intention. And they can move energy or send energy long distance to other places because we don't see the distance as an obstacle. We see it as a way of there's no distance really. So we send energy. But what I say is that it's important to work with people or shamans that you trust, that you see that their energy is good. But
wait a minute, you're assuming you have the shamanic skill to see if a person's energy is good. We're talking for the layperson. How do we find a good shaman from a bad shaman?
Word of mouth, of course. And, Ipopiara used to say to me always that we are all shamans in training, you and I and everybody who's listening and everybody in this world. I mean, human beings are built to have the ability of intuition. It's built in our genes and in our spirit because we need to be able to survive on this earth. You cannot survive without all our senses working, and which is the dangers of what's happening now, because right now we have a suppression of senses because of the screens, because of the digital, because of that we are just losing
Is that why we're really needing shaman? Is because we've lost our own ability to connect? And if so, how can we trust what we're being told if we don't have the senses?
Well, I'm a very skeptic person naturally, and what happened to me was that it took me a long time to trust what I see or what I feel or what I know that is to be true. And I think that what's so nice about the shamanic tradition is that nobody tells you that what you see and what you experience is not right, that it's not true. So that the teaching is to learn to trust your intuition. So if you feel somebody good heart, trust yourself that this is a good heart. If you feel that there is something wrong, that something is off balance, trust yourself. That's really the teaching, because when you start living in that a life of trust in the universe, a trust in the messages you receive from nature, from the creator, or from wherever they come, you start to be in the flow of life. If you start...
That's okay. Given the effectiveness of shamanism, are there ethics involved?
Of course. The ethic is to the mission of a shaman is to make other people's dreams come true, to be able to midwife that person's soul yearning, to help that person to be the best of what the person can be. It's not about personal gain. It's not about fame or money or any of those, because spirit have a very strong way of bringing you back to where you need to be.
So how about working on permission with permission? Do you ever work without permission, or how do you get permission? Where do you stand on that?
Well, you always have to ask permission. In the shamanic tradition, when you walk into a forest, or when you walk into a house, or when you walk to any space, you ask for permission from the spirit of the place to walk on that, to enter. In the same way, you do that when people come for healing. You need their permission to work with them. You can't do it without that permission. And when they are not there, you journey, or you are consulting with your spirit and their spirit if that healing needs to happen, and if it's not, you don't do.
So that would be another divination between a shaman and a sorcerer, because a sorcerer, you're not going to make a voodoo doll and poke pins on it with somebody's permission, I don't think.
No. The voodoo guy will do that in order to stop people from being alive, or to create harm to other people. The good shaman would never do that.
Now, I didn't mean to define voodoo as bad, because voodoo is simply African shamanism. There's the good, the bad, the ugly there, I'm sure, as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I know many people who are very good voodoo practitioners. It is what, see, that's the thing. What happened in our culture is that they vilify the word curandero, shamans, or medicine person. And in many ways, the word shaman today is kind of like an overall umbrella name for all of those people who are doing this work, and it's kind of take the bad connotations out of that.
Right. So do we practice shamanism without even knowing it? And if so, could you give some examples?
Of course you do. When you go out into nature and you breathe the air, and you feel that you are connected to something, and everybody does. When you are in your dreams, when you have dreams, and that is prophetic dreams, or dreams that are telling you about your emotional or spiritual or your fears, these are messages from spirit. When you daydream and you receive messages, that's a connection from the spirit world.
What is spirit?
Well, spirit is the energy of consciousness that is embedded in everything that is around us. See, in the shamanic tradition, we believe that everything in the universe, which is also the quantum physics belief too, that everything is energy. Nothing is real in the way that we see it, and everything is moving and in different shapes, forms, and vibrations, and that vibration, or that tension between all these particles, is really what creates consciousness, and that consciousness is what hold the knowledge of the universe.
You know, there's many shamanic traditions and indigenous prophecies they have about this particular time in history. Are you familiar with any?
It is in many cultures, not just in the Andes. I can speak more about the Andes, because these are the prophecies that started in 1993, when 500 years after the death of Atahualpa, the king of the Inca. The prophecy says that after 500 years of occupation of the South America by the Spaniard and European, a new period will arise, a new time, a new correction of time and space will come. And that will be when the condor, which represents the South, will be flying in the same sky with the eagle of the North, in the dance of harmony and peace and the return of the feminine energies, which is really what we are experiencing now. It's the death of the old period of time, which represent in our political structure now, and the reawakening of the feminine energy, and I'm not talking about women power. I'm talking about feminine, which is the energy that's embedded in each of us. Because there are some women who are very masculine too, and the other way with men. So the idea is that we are returning to more of a balanced society, more harmonious society that is value more the connection to the heart, to environment, to the feminine, for the nurturing, for the community responsibility. And that's what I saw. I think it's so important that the veil is coming down now. And we are all feeling it. We all know that it's true. We all seeing through all the corruption that we are witnessing now. We know that this is not the way humans should live. We know that we can do better.
Mm. Well, this has just been wonderful to share time with you and to see you and others like you bringing this ancient practice to help us through this transition. I can't thank you enough for being on the show with us. Time has sure flown, but we're out of it. Itzhak, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Our guest this hour has been Itzhak Beery, a leading shamanic teacher, healer, speaker, community activist, and author of numerous books on shamanism. His website, itzhakbeery.com. Remember to join our email family to stay abreast of all the exciting new things we have coming up at thescienceofmagic.net. This has been The Science of Magic with yours truly, Gwilda Wiyaka, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you find your light in the darkness.
One people, one nation, searching through the night. One people, one nation, searching for the light. One people, one nation.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.